All right, today we are diving deep into a major government directive, one that's designed to completely change how America gets the raw materials for, well, pretty much our entire modern world. We're going to deconstruct Executive Order 14-2041, and we'll be using the document itself as our guide. So let's get into it.
So, let me ask you a question. What do your phone, an electric car, and one of those giant wind turbines have in common? I mean, they seem totally different, right? But there's a hidden connection. They all depend on a specific set of critical minerals to even exist. And those minerals are exactly what this executive order is all about.
Now, the order has this specific kind of official-sounding term for all that stuff: derivative products. It's a really broad category that covers everything from electric vehicles and their batteries to smartphones and the microprocessors inside them. And that's a huge clue right off the bat. It tells you this isn't just about digging stuff out of the ground, it's about the whole high-tech supply chain.
Okay, so why the big push? What's the problem that's so urgent it requires such a massive policy shift? Well, according to the order itself, it all boils down to one thing: a stated security risk. And here's the core reason, and I'm pulling this quote directly from Section 1 of the document. It says, "Our national and economic security are now acutely threatened by our reliance upon hostile foreign powers' mineral production." So the argument being made is pretty clear. Depending on other countries for these materials is a major threat. And the goal then is to build up America's own supply to lower that risk.
So you have this big, stated threat? What's the response? Well, it comes in the form of a powerful, top-down directive coming straight from the president.
And here it is, Executive Order 14-241. When it was signed, it wasn't just a suggestion. It was like firing a starting gun for the entire federal government. It laid out a whole series of commands with some incredibly tight deadlines. And just so we're all on the same page, let's do a quick refresher on what an executive order actually is. It's a really powerful tool. It's a directive from the president that basically has the force of law within federal agencies, and it lets the government act really fast without having to wait for new legislation from Congress. So, we know the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. How does this order actually plan to get all of this done? Well, it lays out a very clear three-pronged plan of attack. The whole strategy really boils down to three main pillars. First, fast-track the permits for mining projects. Second, prioritize how federal land is used to make room for that mining. And third, accelerate investment. We're talking both public and private money. So, let's break down each one of those. All right, pillar number 1 is all about speed. The order pretty much identifies the current regulatory process as a huge bottleneck. So its first mission is to clear the way for new mining projects to get approved as quickly as humanly possible. And when I say quickly, I'm not kidding. We're not talking about your typical government timeline. Just look at these deadlines. Within 10 days, agencies have to pull together lists of every pending project. By day 15, some of those are already getting put on an expedited schedule. And then, get this. In just 30 days, they have to submit recommendations to Congress about the Mining Act of 1872, a law from the 1800s. This is a full-on regulatory sprint. Okay, so you've sped up the paperwork. The next big question is, where is all this new mining going to happen? Pillar 2 has a very clear answer. The focus is squarely on federal lands. And here we go again with those incredibly aggressive timelines. In just 10 days, the Secretary of the Interior has to identify all the federal lands that have mineral deposits, and not just identify them, but officially prioritize mining as the main land use for those areas. Then, by day 30, a whole bunch of departments have to pinpoint the best spots for private companies to come in, with top priority going to any site that can get up and running the fastest. And that brings us to the third and final pillar. This one's all about the money. Because let's be real, you can't just start a mine with pocket change. It takes a massive amount of capital. This order is designed to unlock that cash, from both the government and the private sector. And to do that, they're pulling out a really big tool from the toolbox, the Defense Production Act, or DPA. You may have heard of this. It's a law that's been around since the 1950s, and it gives the president the power to tell companies to prioritize making things for national security. Using it for mining, well, that sends a very loud and clear signal that the government views this as a critical defense issue. And this really is an all-hands-on-deck approach to funding. You can see how a whole bunch of different agencies are being called into action. You've got the Department of Defense using its DPA authority, the Development Finance Corporation is told to issue loans, the Export-Import Bank has to create new financing tools, even the Small Business Administration is tasked with finding ways to help smaller companies get in on the action. So let's just take a step back for a second.
When you put all these pieces together, you've got the super fast permits, the changes in land use, and this massive push for investment. What does it all add up to? What's the bigger picture?
Well, here's the bottom line. This is not some minor policy adjustment. Executive Order 142441 is basically a blueprint for a sweeping, radical, and incredibly rapid overhaul of the entire American mineral production supply chain. I mean, from the moment a mineral comes out of the ground all the way to the finished product in our hands.
And that really brings us to the huge question that this order leaves us with. It provides the plan, it provides the tools, and it gives the reasoning. But what it really highlights is a much, much bigger challenge. What does it actually take in terms of policy, money, and sheer national will to rebuild an entire foundational industry, essentially from the ground up?